Hello, everybody. Hi, welcome. Aw, look how friendly everybody is. So this is the LGBT plus panel. We are here to talk to you about those sorts of things. But before we do introduction stuff, I just want to talk a little bit about what you can kind of expect from the panel. So if any of you were at TwitchCon last year, or maybe you saw the VODs, we did a similar panel. Dylan, who couldn't be here because he's at a straight wedding. This is what happens when you let straight people get married. It's too perfect. I'm actually kind of happy he gave me that opportunity. So you might have seen that panel. This is kind of our second iteration of it. So we're taking some of the things that we learned from that panel, and we're going to be talking about what our experiences are like in Twitch and in being a public figure in the game streaming space, but also being LGBT. So we're going to talk a little bit about where we're coming from. And kind of give you an idea of what that's been like for us. Share some of our tips and tricks, and hopefully not too much of our trauma. So, I'll get everybody to give their own introductions. So maybe if you can just tell us your name, your channel name, tell us your pronouns, and just let the audience know a bit about kind of what you're about. Anne, do you want to start us off?
Sure.
Do it.
Hi, my name is Ammunition, obviously full-time Twitch streamer. I guess pronouns she, her, mostly gay? Mostly?
I'm Distracted Elf. I'm, again, she, her pronouns, and trans variety caster.
Hello everyone, I'm EGR Gaming. I go by him, he. I'm gay. I am a variety caster as well. Yeah.
My name's Adam Coble. I use male pronouns. I'm a queer, an anarchist, and I like Dungeons and Dragons, and I play that on stream. So that's a thing that I do. So this is a super important panel, and I don't say that to be self-aggrandizing or anything, but I think that the fact that it was so quickly accepted by Twitch and it's been supported by the Twitch staff says a lot. I know they've been doing a lot of work to give voices to people who otherwise in gaming might have not had them. So I'm super appreciative of that and of their efforts. But I also think it's a really important panel because Twitch as a space and gaming also is still pretty rough. If you are not a straight white man. So it's important to acknowledge that while work is being done, that there are things that could be done better. And I think you'll see through the questions that I've got for our panelists, some of the things we're going to talk about, that there's still work to be done, but that things are improving. If you have questions, we'll take them at the end. We'll have a little LGBT Q&A. It's going to get worse, I promise. We're not done. The other thing I just wanted to say, and I feel like looking at you lovely people, I don't have to worry about this, but we want this panel to be representative of the kinds of safe spaces we're trying to create in Twitch, in our communities, in video gaming. So phobic bullshit is not welcome here at all. So, I'm all about inclusiveness, but I don't include assholes in that space. So don't be a jerk. The last thing I'm going to say before I start interrogating these beautiful people is that queerness is not a monolith, right? There's only 4 of us up here, and we all have really different experiences that both won't necessarily mesh with yours as an audience or with each other's, and that's okay. We don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with us. Everyone's experience is real and valid, and if you lived it, it's real for you. So if we say something that doesn't mesh with the things you've experienced in your life, that's just because we're coming from a different place. And if someone in the panel says something that anyone else in the panel disagrees with, and we get into an argument about it, it doesn't mean that queerness is destroyed forever. It's okay. We can disagree. We can all be real different, which I guess is sort of the point. So I guess the thing I want to start with, because I think it's something that separates just all of us from one another, how much does the fact that you identify as a non-straight person or LGBT, how much does that affect your life on Twitch? Is it something that comes up a lot or not?
I think for me personally, barely at all. I feel very lucky and fortunate to be in that position. I feel like I have been really blessed by a wonderful community of people who I can make jokes about being attracted to women, and they don't think of that as any different than if I were making a joke about being attracted to a man. They just kind of take it in stride. And we have like these discussions about, you know, being gay and what that means. And I have just seen them have these really positive conversations surrounding gayness, and they've just been like totally cool about it. So I see like a lot of them right there. So thank you guys for that. You guys are cool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of written on my face, you know? So it has impacted my experience on Twitch a lot in terms of that I'm having the kind of conversations that are like, okay, let me tell you a thing. 50% of the time. But yeah, I mean, that's not a bad thing. I'm happy to talk about that stuff, and it always leads to good conversation, so.
I think for me, it doesn't really hinder anything or do anything different. I mean, I can be a little bit sassy, which is nice. But honestly, I feel like I'm myself, you know? So I don't think it really like changes anything. I think it actually makes it better, though. Just saying.
So has that always been the case for you and for Anne, especially like have your communities always been like accepting of that? And
yeah, I mean, for me, like I have a lot of my friends here too. People kind of like wonder at first, and I try to figure out like, is he gay? He's kind of says, but my communities have always been like very supportive and very loving. We have like a really great amount of people who like just from all sorts of life. So my community's been very accepting. Like, and I don't even have to say anything. They're just like, well, especially when people come in and they're like, "Are you gay?" And it's like, "Don't you say that. Just let him be himself. It doesn't matter who he is." And I'm like, okay, I didn't have to do anything. That's totally fine. And I that's one of the things I do think is kind of rude. Like just in general, if someone's just like, you're streaming and you don't know, "Are you gay?" I don't know your name, but are you gay?
you don't just like walk up to people in the street and be like, "Hey, what up? Are you gay?
Are you gay? Are you straight?" Like I think like in a way like
I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna start going into channels and be like, "Is this guy? Is this guy straight? Are you? He's acting really straight right now.
I mean,
this is weird."
I mean, you like you said, like that's my experience as well. Just what? Like, okay.
I think for me, you know, I've always been very at peace with my sexuality. Like I've never really felt like I had to hide it from people. And so when I started streaming, I've been streaming for about 2 years, just over 2 years. And I think from the get-go, I've always been very much about kind of pruning the community to be the people who I really value being around. Like, you know, this is something I have to do 6 to 8 hours a day. I don't want it to be filled with, you know, people who are terrible. So I've very much like worked very hard from the very beginning to have people around who were okay with my sexuality and who weren't going to treat it like it was a big deal, because to me it's not a big deal. So I think from just starting day one, I was like, it won't be like that, and luckily it hasn't devolved to that.
Do you feel like that, and this is for everybody, but do you feel like your community contains, if you look at your community versus the community of other streamers of your size, your peers, do you feel like your community contains more LGBT people than the average?
I think my community contains more accepting people than the average. As much as I don't like when people come in and say, "So is she a lesbian or what?" I don't ask them for their sexuality. You know, I don't ask my viewers what their race is or anything, so I don't really know. You know, I don't have any idea about the demographics, but I know that they're all good people, and that's what's important to me.
I just like to point out you just wooed yourself. That's okay. It's okay to love yourself. Do it.
I mean, for me, yeah, definitely. I think my audience contains a larger than average sort of, you know, queer community, so to speak. But again, I mean, they're just awesome, and it's not like I'm going, these are the only people that can watch my channel, you know, this is who I'm gunning for, or anything like that. It just kind of happened organically, and it's like that, so.
The same with Ann. Like, I have a great community of people, just open-minded. Yeah, I do have a few gay viewers who watch and stuff, but yeah, everybody's pretty much open-minded and very like loving, which is great. So yeah.
So we obviously have to do a lot of work to make the space. Again, you said, right from the get-go, you established kind of rules about how things were or were not going to be in your channel. We established these rules primarily, I think, at first to protect ourselves. But do you think, what's the difference between creating a system, a community system in which you feel safe versus one in which the people that you're streaming to feel safe with each other? Or is there a difference?
I think I try and make sure that if we're having discussions that are more serious than you would typically find on Twitch, I try and make sure that everyone is being respectful of everyone and trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. If they say something that sounds maybe a bit more ignorant or something that I don't necessarily agree with, sometimes it's just so dumb that I'll just snap on them and I can't help it. I'm sorry if I've ever done that to you, but like sometimes it's like maybe this person just doesn't have any experience with anything that we're saying. Maybe they have literally no idea and they're coming to you from this place of just complete, not like ignorance in a malicious way, but they just don't know. So taking that opportunity to calmly explain to them in a respectful way versus just, instantly shutting them down. Like I try and encourage everyone to have this conversation that's respectful and not just about like, well, you're wrong and we're not going to explain why.
Yeah, I feel like, what you said, Anne, is like pretty representative in terms of you want everybody to have this discussion, and just because somebody says something that maybe doesn't seem like super respectful doesn't mean they're doing it on purpose. And I spend a lot of time trying to make sure that like everybody is respected, including me and everybody else in chat, and trying to correct language or anything, and just there are a lot of people who come to my channel and don't have any idea what they're watching, so to speak. So I do a lot of that, a lot of education.
So does that ever feel like tiring or like too much work to do? Because I think that to Anne's point, a lot of folks in the general sort of Twitch chat audience are ignorant. I think that's a word that it's okay to use because ignorant doesn't necessarily mean that it's the fault of the person who doesn't have this information. But by the same token, how much do you feel like it's your responsibility to fix that ignorance? And is it worth the amount of emotional effort you have to do to continually explain to people why you are the way you are?
I mean, I'm pretty good at it now. I have done it like thousands of times. I'm not kidding. Sometimes like 20 times a day. No joke. What the hell, boy, girl? Oh, all the time. It's great. But it's not a problem to me. I mean, you can say whatever you want to me. That's not an issue. Like, I'm super easygoing, and yeah, if you're an asshole more than once, then you're gone. But the first time, I'll give you a pass, and we'll see if you can correct it the second time.
Yeah, I think sometimes it is, we want to be able to correct people because they may not know or not know anybody who's gay, or just in general, like very closed-minded. I think I don't have a problem with it, correcting people, but there are people who just are just being assholes and just trying to bait people to do stuff, and which I try to stay away from that when I feel it. Like you just know when someone comes to the chat to just be like, I'm trying to push your buttons, I'm waiting to see what I can do.
So how do you develop those skills around knowing when someone is just being a shitlord and when they're actually curious about?
Usually, well, like I said, like it starts with the "Are you gay?" and I'm like, "Yes," and then like you wait for the next question, or you're waiting for the next answer. You're like, it's either "Oh, I didn't know," or "Can you explain?" or it's F word, F this, blah blah blah, and it's like, all right, you're out. Too late. As soon as you hear that word, I'm out.
So does being that vigilant ever impact the quality for you of your stream? Like, do you ever feel like your stream suffers because you have to like keep an eye on this stuff?
I mean, it does get kind of disruptive because, like, especially with my stream, like we're always like, I'm just like a comedian. I feel like that's what it is, and it changes it. Like, especially when someone like comes in, it's just like, "Are you gay?" And we're all like laughing and stuff. It's like, "Oh, okay," and I was like, "Yes." And then everybody's like, okay, it doesn't matter if he's gay or not. Like, are you not enjoying the content? And then we kind of just see how the person is. But I've had a lot of people who've done that, and then they didn't know, and then they learned more about me and why I am how I am. and which I think is important for us as casters to just be very open to ourselves and letting people know, because people are can be ignorant and don't know anybody in their life. So we need to just make sure that they. I don't know. It just depends on what kind of person you are, and I give it one chance. If you're honestly being an asshole, I'll try. After that, if you are being an asshole, yeah. But yeah. Long-winded question.
I mean, that's basically the same as what I do. It's okay, you come in with something ignorant, or you come in with something that is framed in a poor manner, and I address it yes, in fact, I'll tell you all the things you need to know, just be respectful and everything's cool. And if the next thing is like you said, some stupid comment, then bye, But if somebody goes, oh, I didn't know that what I did was the wrong thing, then I feel like I've made progress,
I mean, I feel like I'll spend a little time trying to educate people, so to speak. But if your parents failed you, it's not my job to fix you, So, I'm not a teacher. I'm an entertainer, and I don't. If people don't like me, or they don't like the fact that I'm gay, or whatever, you don't have to watch my content. That's fine. We don't have to be friends. I will demand that you respect me. I can't demand that people like me or that they agree with my life choices. Fine, whatever. But if they're going to be disrespectful, that's where I draw the line.
So is that kind of community management a task that you feel like you take on predominantly alone, or do you have mods that do similar work? Are your mods there to educate the ignorant masses of Twitch chat in the same way that you are?
I think both my mods and a lot of my regular subs, non-subs, anything, if they're there all the time, they know what I allow and what I won't allow and that kind of thing, and they definitely help groom the community. Because a lot of times it's kind of nice because I'll sit back and I'll see someone say something, and in my mind I'm just oh my God, here we go. And I sit back and I just focus on the game, and I'll see my community handle it without me even having to address it. So that's really good. Good job, guys. You did it. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I mean, having good regulars and good moderators, it's a super load off your shoulders with all of this stuff. I mean, I like to sort of personally address it when I can, but I also have a smaller audience, It's easier for me to sort of personally address something. Yeah, I don't know. I think there are so many good people in the community that you can't really go wrong, you can't. So, I mean, what else can I say on that?
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about being out and coming out and streaming. So I know, Elf, I see you rolling your eyes. The discussion is going to be very different for you from our experiences, I think. But okay, we'll save you for last. So I guess the question here is were you out before you started streaming, and to what extent did you feel that was true of your personality, and how has streaming changed the way that process? Do you have to come out to new subs? Is it just a given? And was being a media personality a part of your coming out experience?
I think for me, when I started, how this all happened, I had a website a long time ago, and I was in a relationship when this all started, and most of my streaming career. And I've always kind of never really talked about it, and just kind of was I'm me, get over it. But when this relationship ended recently, I felt like I dedicated a lot of my life and a lot of the issues I had in this relationship to streaming, and I felt like it was, to me, I wanted to tell my viewers and just be open and just kind of explain to everybody about myself, not being hey, I'm gay, so blah blah, but just to help people out who aren't comfortable, because I know I wasn't, and I've had some pretty crazy experiences, especially with Twitch sometimes. When I first started streaming, I had a friend I was really close with who I came out to, and he totally disappeared, stopped talking to me right away. But what was crazy is that years later, or a year later, he came around and was I was very ignorant about the situation, and I wish I would have handle it better. And I just told him, I understand. It did hurt because when you have a great friend like that, and especially on Twitch, trying to come up and trying to do what you can, and have somebody just kind of turn on you like that, and you feel like they already know you, but just by saying one word, it changes everything. Which is life, it was crazy, but yeah.
I've pretty much been out in life since I was 13, so when I started streaming, it wasn't something that I talked about a lot. It's still not something that I talk about like on a daily basis, but I definitely tried to not talk about it as much when I first was getting started. And not necessarily because I was trying to hide it, but I'm just kind of a distant person naturally, and I just didn't think it was anyone's business, right? I don't know if it was about a year into when I started streaming, I kind of opened up about, I had a lot of people messaging me about the struggles that they deal with in their personal lives and like, dealing with depression and stuff. So I posted this whole thing about, my own struggles with depression in the past and dealing with, I had a friend commit suicide and then my cousin attempted suicide, and it was just, I kind of was open about dealing with this part of my life that was really sad and how I got through it because I wanted to hopefully help someone, and I had a lot of people respond to that very positively saying, like, even if it doesn't fix the things in my life, at least I know that there's somebody out there who's like, has dealt with the same things and has gotten through it. And so at that point was when I was like, okay, I don't care if anyone knows that I'm gay. If I can like use this to help somebody out there, like then I'm going to be open about it because it's important to them and not necessarily because it's important to me, but because it's important to them. Like I have this opportunity to be open with people and let them, see somebody who has gone through all of this and has come out on the other side, hopefully better. And I had one guy message me who was like, I really liked your content until I found out you were gay. Like I really liked it until then.
That guy, fuck you.
I know, right?
I don't know who you are,
and
but
I was
fuck
like,
you, buddy.
the whole time, like, I would throw in little hints before I ever talked about it. I'm like, playing The Witcher, and I'm like, Yennefer's cute though, right? Right? And so he messaged me, and I'm just like, I was gay the whole time. You just didn't know.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Like you liked it while I was gay. You just didn't know, and it's So, but now I'm obviously doing this panel, and it's like LGBT. So it's like very open about it now. But it kind of started, and I gotta ease people into it a little bit. Yeah.
So do you ever feel like you have a responsibility to be a role model for baby queers?
I think the more I do streaming stuff and the more I come to events like this, and kind of, I guess, the bigger the community becomes, the more I feel like I have like a social responsibility. Yeah.
You want to talk about your experiences?
Oh
the last
boy.
few years on Twitch?
Okay.
Elf?
So I have a fairly unique experience in regards to this because I started out my stream as a straight white guy. Like 2 years into streaming, I started my transition, and oh boy, that was a thing. You don't realize how much it's going to affect everything until you like really like consider what is going on and how that sort of, I don't know, is going to go for you. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm in a good place. I'm in a good place, and this is the end of my career. When I was thinking about it. But then I was also thinking, if I don't do it, it's the end of my life. So I kind of don't have a choice. And yeah, I mean, I got a lot of positive response, but I don't know if it would surprise you, and it's kind of sad that it might not, that lots of people just left without saying anything, like, bye. And it's sad, it's sad that people can't sort of like listen and try and rationalize these things, and talk it through, and listen to what matters to me and how I am, and that it's really important, So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think seriously, I think it's really important, and something that like I know is true about your channel, and like this is a thing that happens, right? If you're a Twitch streamer, you end up with a history that people can access readily, right? And for most of us, we can look back at our VODs and be like, oh, that's an embarrassing haircut, or like, oh, I can't believe I dressed like that.
Yeah,
so,
I know where this is going. Yeah. So you can look back at my VODs and be like, oh, that's very different. Yes, she sounds different. Her hair is different. She's not even she yet. Very interesting. And it's funny how I've had an experience like in my chat recently, actually, where somebody said, "Oh, I really like your stream. I really like your content. It's super awesome." But then I went back and I looked at your VODs, and now I feel weird looking at you. And I went, "Why? What has changed? Nothing. I am the same as when you looked at me the first time, you know?" But it's weird how that context, like, I don't know, messes with some people.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just wanted to acknowledge that it's like hella brave that you're doing that. So thank you. So let's talk a little bit about the ecosystem of streaming. You know, the sort of social aspects of it. Do you feel like, I guess, do you feel like you're a part of the sort of queer community of streamers online? Is there one? Do we exist? And if so, you know, how has that evinced itself? And if not, you know, why do you feel it's like that?
I don't know if I've noticed that it exists or not. I have always been like, this is a part of who I am, but it doesn't define who I am. And so I've never really found myself aligning with like the gay community or like the queer community. Not out of like some kind of weird like closeted self-hate or something, you know, like I'm cool with being gay, fine. But it's just like my ex hated it because I never wanted to go to like pride parades and stuff. It just like, it didn't feel like me personally because it didn't feel like I needed to like go and celebrate this like one small aspect of who I am, you know, like I'm more than just a gay woman, you know, like there's a lot more to me than just that. So I think for me, it's always been about, especially with streaming, where I've tried to be this person who, like, if you enjoy that I'm playing video games and like maybe I make you laugh, like that's what's important, you know, and it's just, there's all this extra stuff that isn't really that important that is a part of who I am. So it's like, if I want to align myself with a community of people on Twitch, it's just, I want to be associated with people who are entertaining rather than, you know, like just gay people or something.
So how do you feel then, and feel free to tell me to fuck off and not answer this, but how do you feel about the idea of somebody Google searching like lesbian Overwatch player and finding your channel?
I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
No, and that's cool.
Yeah, I don't like mind, you know. That's the thing, is that it's just, this is a small part of who I am. You know, I ship Farrah and Mercy all the time. I see Mercy in the game, I'm playing Farrah, and I'm like, hey girl, you know. So I don't mind. It's not, yeah, there's nothing that I'm trying to hide. It's just like, I don't go around broadcasting that I, you know, like had pizza for dinner or something, you know. It's just, it is. It's just a fact that exists.
Yeah, I mean, in a similar vein, like the community of sort of, you know, queer streamers, I kind of don't think of people like that. I kind of just go, you're a person I like. I don't go, you are specifically this, as you said, like tiny little part of yourself that's like not super huge in the grand scheme of things. Like, and maybe that's, I don't know. I think I don't exactly have a sort of group of LGBT streamers that I think, oh yeah, I'll hang out with them all the time. But I do tend to run into a lot of them, strangely, you know.
Well, I kind of dislike that false friendship of like, yeah, like you're gay, we have to be friends now.
Yeah,
like it's just written in the law. You know?
Yeah, that's
like,
how it works. As soon as you come out, you're instantly friends with all other non-straight people.
Right.
It's taxing. I have to go to a lot of
straight
parties.
people are friends, right? Like that's what I've heard.
That's how that works.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm open to just friends and people's faces. If I like your face, we're friends. So that, like, I like all your faces, so we're friends. You know what I mean? It doesn't, I've never been, you're specific to this or that. I just love people, just in general, for being yourself.
So with that perceived absence of a queer community on Twitch, if someone were getting started streaming and they were feeling like uncomfortable about their non-straightness, looking for people to connect to, what would you suggest that they do to reach out and get help with that? Where can solidarity come from if we don't already have a community in that space?
Well, I think, and I feel free to disagree with me on this if you want, but I feel like my being at peace with my sexuality came before I started streaming. You know, that was, I had to figure that out separate from the internet, you know, and not because, I think if you're relying on other people to make you happy, then you aren't going to find true happiness. But that being said, I do think that there is something to be said for community that is supportive of itself. You know, like, I don't know. I'm a big advocate of finding your peace on your own and like finding your happiness and like doing it in a way that doesn't involve other people, because everyone has their own like agenda, and I think everyone should be a little bit more selfish and be like, okay, I need to figure out what I'm doing for myself. So I guess like if you're trying to find a community of people to like be okay with your not straightness, I don't know that I would suggest that they look for specifically other gay people. You know, like I don't, like with my community, I'm not like, well, I'm having a crisis of sexuality and I can only talk to gay people about this. Like they're, you know, it's like I want to talk to everyone to get as many opinions as possible. So I don't know.
I mean, I can kind of speak to this like from my own experience, because like I said, I sort of came out on Twitch and had a community already around, and it wasn't like I went, okay, everybody who doesn't agree, like get out, and then I'll talk about how I feel.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about gay stuff. Everybody get out.
Yeah, this is only for the gay people. You know, no, I mean not at all.
Oh my God, can we get a gay mode for Twitch, please?
Yeah.
Just.
Instead of dark mode. Or...
Staff, please, can I want that button real bad.
I mean, there's just like, there's such a spectrum of awesome people too. And I'm not just saying like, oh, the LGBT spectrum, you know, I'm talking like people in general have the capacity to be cool and helpful and awesome. And if you find someone who you can talk to about your issues and who you feel is a person who is listening and helping as much as they can, or, you know, so on, like, it doesn't really matter who they are, like, or what they feel about themselves, because everybody has that different experience, you know? And I'm super grateful to everyone that that helped me. And I didn't ask them one by one if they were gay or not, you know?
I think for me, I've always been an open, honest person, especially like just streaming in general, like trying to help others. Like if you have any questions at all, like I'm open. My DMs on Twitter are always open. Like if you need support or help or any questions of like how to deal with it, you could speak to me.
I'm gonna DM you right now.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Where's my
free to
phone?
DM.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just my nature, though. I've always been a very helpful person and wanting to support others, because without like the community that I have right now, or the friends I have right now, I wouldn't be where I am now. And I want to be that for other people. And I know if a lot of you have never met me before, but I want to be able to help others. Don't worry, you can ask me if you need help. Yeah.
So, well, I want to get real with a hypothetical. So whatever metric you want to use for this, subs, followers, views, whatever. Do you think you'd have more if you were straight?
No, not at all, because I wouldn't be myself and I wouldn't be funny. I think I'd be boring. I like myself. I like being gay. It's fun.
This is gonna sound like really self-depreciating, but yes, because I've been there. I did it. I was that, and I'm not now. And I'm happier, and I'm super great in myself. But yes, I think it very much impacted my stream, 100%.
I feel like I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this. Don't want to take like. I'm not pointing any fingers.
It's cool. I got the homo police on speed dial.
Yeah.
Get ready. Do it.
I think I would have more viewers if I had less self-respect in a certain way. I think about that quite often, but I frequently say on my stream that I prefer viewers of quality over quantity. So I would rather have, 1,000 viewers that are nice people that I enjoy talking to, that I can be like, yo, Face, what's up? How's your test? And Ban, how are you doing? I can point out people. Yeah, hi. Rather than here's these 5,000 people. They all hate me, but they're here, great. Why would you? I don't know. I don't want that, so I'm happy with what I've got.
I just realized what I said sounds really bad to the people who do watch me. That's not what I meant, I love you all.
So let's talk a little bit about encouraging people to try and take on the things that we do, right? If they're looking into this, what are some ways that you would suggest that people who are looking to get into streaming, for whom their LGBT identity is a part of who they are, and they're going to bring that to their stream, what's one thing you would tell them to help them prepare for that experience?
Man, I wish Dylan were here. Dylan would be great at this. Yeah. Because he's very much, I feel like that's very much a part of his identity, or his streaming. Yeah. Because for me, it's always just been an afterthought more, So you're asking specifically if somebody wanted it to be a big part of what they're doing?
Yeah, not necessarily a big part, but just something they're going to acknowledge,
I mean, it's something that I acknowledge pretty frequently, but I think having a strong foundation of people who are there to back you up, like I said, with having a good community, I think that's really important. And being able to have an intelligent, respectful discussion that doesn't devolve to name calling. The second that it turns into name calling is when I shut it down. But I think that it's really important to build your community the way that you want it to be. And there's this quote that I always try and live by, which is I don't remember the exact words, but it's people will learn how to treat you by what you allow, what you reinforce, and what you stop. And that is how I run my community, is you have to know, I think it's important to know from the get-go what you want to be, what you want the rules to be, but also be willing to be flexible and evolve as your channel grows.
Yeah, I mean, in a cliche manner, don't let the haters get you down. But that's, I mean, for me, that's what I think. If you're starting out and you feel vulnerable, it could be tough. If you're gonna let things in chat influence how you feel. I always feel like there's this thing, and in the same manner that Anne says, what you allow to happen is what people will do. And I also feel that a lot of what I do is, you can try and make me feel whatever you want. You can try and make me angry. You can try and make me whatever. But I feel the things that I want to. So good luck.
I think for just in general, you just have to, unfortunately, just like in the real world, that not everybody is gonna be okay. And you just gotta accept that fact. I know when I first started, I was really worried about people saying stuff and being rude and things like that. But you just have to be ready for someone to be ignorant and try to bait you into getting angry, and you just can't let it affect you. That's why it's great to have a really good community of friends, just a community in general to back you up. Because it's hard, especially by yourself. If you are doing it for the first time, I totally understand how that is, because I was scared the first time it happened, and I didn't have a big community at first, dealing with it by myself, and it made me feel really bad, where I thought I was not gonna want to stream anymore, which kind of sucks, because if I did, then I wouldn't be here. But you just got to be prepared that not everybody's gonna like it, but just the real world's like that too, and it sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize too that you don't have to be impervious, right? That people are gonna say mean things, and it's gonna suck, and you're gonna feel bad, and it's okay to feel bad. That's all right. It's almost more important to build a structure around yourself of friends and family and people you care about that can help you work through stuff when it's hard, rather than just assume that you should be bulletproof from day one. Because nobody is. It's impossible. It's okay. I think on the flip side, some people run into a situation where their emotions become commodified. People will get upset on stream, and it just becomes part of their thing. If that is a thing you find happening to you, be careful with it, right? Find a space where you can be authentic with your own feelings that isn't necessarily on stream, even if you want to be emotionally open with your viewers, because we all have to have something for ourselves, even if we're sharing a lot of ourselves, which often I know streamers do. So let's turn it around. Let's take a moment for the douchebags. If you were to give advice for people who, ask questions like, "What are a gay?" What are ways for the vast majority of people who don't have personal interaction with or personal experience with anything outside of very normative space? How would you advise them to get learnt?
I mean, you can Google stuff, but also like one of the things that I would give advice to people if they don't know how to sort of like approach a streamer or channel or whatever, somebody who is in their life, watch the way that other people interact with them, and that can inform your decision. I don't know. It's hard to say like, oh, you're a person who's not going to take the time to worry about what you're going to do. Here's what you should do. Take the time to worry about what you're going to do.
Change everything about who you are.
Yeah, like if you could be someone else, that'd be really great,
That's good advice. Be less bad.
One of my favorite quotes, which I did a panel at PAX West just a couple weeks ago, and I used this exact same quote, but it's from an Annie DeFranco song. Token lesbian, great, okay. So she says that if you stretch your mind all the way as far as it goes, there's someone out there who lives further than that in a place you will never know. And I like applying that quote to, like, if me personally, if I literally try and think as far outside of the box as anything that I could possibly imagine, there are so many people who live even further than that. And, like, I will never be able to understand them. Like, I can try my best, but I cannot understand where they're coming from, what their experiences have been, what that has made them feel, just in the same way that they can't fully understand where I'm coming from. And there is some overlap, but for people who, go to Google and type in "what are gay," there's just, I think it's a good practice for anyone, even, if you consider yourself like to be the most accepting person ever, but I think it's a good thing to remember that you can literally think as, outside the box as possible, and you will never be able to think, you'll never be able to share the same experiences and emotions as someone else. So.
I think like contacting the person privately is always a good thing too. Just to, if you have a question over like, hey, I watch your stream, just wondering about some stuff. Because I would always appreciate it if someone actually did it and says it. Are you gay? Are you gay? Hi, my name is Brandon. Nice to meet you as well. I'm gay. Like, it's so weird, like, when people do that. It's so weird. It's so weird. Because you don't say, are you straight? I don't go in people's streams and say that. But
now we will.
now I might have to start doing this, see what happens. But contacting someone privately, I think, is the best way. Because it opens up a new conversation that you can, possibly someone is struggling or has questions and how to deal with it. And that's how the conversation gets started, just like by contacting privately. And so you guys could talk like that, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think to add to this, it's super important if you can recognize you're in a position of ignorance, which I think everybody should and does, in that, you can grow out of it. You can change. Ignorance isn't a permanent state. I know, like, personally, I have been transphobic. I have been racist. I have been homophobic. It's because these are the structures of the society we live in, and it makes bad people, and we have to work to not be those people. And the first thing you can do is just recognize, like, yeah, okay, I believe and feel some shitty things, but I'm willing to explore the idea of not being a dirtbag my whole life. And that can be really hard, right? That's why people respond defensively when they get called out on stuff. When someone comes into a channel and says something shitty, and people in your chat say, hey, that's not okay, and they double down instead of being like, oh, I wonder why they said that. Maybe I'm the worst. That's real hard to do, and I don't think we can expect that from people to first go through. It can be real hard. So I think recognizing that that's a thing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of solidarity, of how important to y'all, and whether it comes up at all or not, topics like racism or ableism come up, the marginalization of other cultures and peoples, and is that something you think about in your channel? Is it something that's part of your ethos, or is it not really a thing that you talk about?
Can I answer first?
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to answer first. Which, I could go for days about this.
Please do.
Racism is a big issue I deal with, which is crazy. I deal with more racist stuff than the whole gay thing. I never thought that. I was just like, I think that more people would get mad about the whole gay thing, but no, it's like I deal with more racist comments a lot, which I have been actively trying to change people's perception about, just races in general. Me as a black gay male, it's hard. It's hard to, just in society, dealing with stuff, And I just wish that people would respect people as people and not just be, oh, you're a color? Get out. But I was like, well, you're in my channel. You get out. This is my house. Like, you came here. I didn't. I don't want to go too long on it, but racism is a big thing that I deal with a lot, which I wish that and hope that one day on Twitch we can stop it, mainly because, well, not stop it completely because you can't stop it, but just educate more people about, hey, you can't just go in people's chat and just go like, hey, N-word, N-word, N-word. I hear that all the time. And then they'll get banned and they'll come back and say, oh, I really liked your content. Can I come back? And it's like, if you watch my content for a second and realize that I'm actually pretty funny, you would still be here. And it's, okay, we won't go too long. People have to talk. We'll leave that for another day. But yeah, racism is bad. There you go.
I mean, how do I follow racism is bad? You basically like...
In addition to racism being bad.
Additionally to racism being bad, sexism is also bad. And the various other nasty isms are all bad. And I think there shouldn't be bad stuff. Nobody should feel bad for something that is, it's out of their control. Like, what can you do? What can you say about that? Yes, I'm all for talking about the serious subjects. I would say that 90% of the serious subjects that come up in my chat have to do with trans things because, hi, I'm here and it's written on my face, as I said to start. But yeah, I mean, I'm all about everybody work together to make everything awesome,
I feel very, fortunate to be in a position where my ethnicity isn't a very obvious thing. I get the question every single day, multiple times a day, what's her ethnicity, where's she from, blah, blah, blah. And I have always just been it's not really anyone's business. It's not a big deal. It's one of those things that I just kind of have I just don't want to talk about it. And it's not because of any reason. It wouldn't be a big deal if I told people, but I'm just you know what? No. You don't get to know that.
Do you ever feel commodified for that? Do you ever feel like people are like, ooh, I like Anne, she's exotic?
I have been described as exotic before. It makes me feel really skeeved out when people are like,
it's gross.
Yeah, it's weird. But I feel like I just try and I try and turn the discussion away from that, and it's whether or not you enjoy the content is what's important to me, and not whether or not you are thinking of adding me to your person ethnicity collection or something. That's what it sounds like, right? So yeah, right.
Yeah, I think one thing that we have the advantage as streamers as having control over a certain conversational space, we can manipulate the conversations that happen both in overt ways by saying, these are banned words in my channel, these are things that the mods know to look out for and get rid of, but also in subtle ways in the way we choose our emotes, right? The things that we give, the tools we give our chat to communicate with one another. And for me, personally, one thing that is a little, I think, weird for people who are new to my channel, the language that often crops up around especially competitive gaming is a language of misogynistic sexual violence in a lot of ways. And, we don't kill our opponents, we sexually assault them. And banning that kind of gendered language as a stand is a thing that I'm doing in my channel, and I've found that it actually really changes the conversation when people know that things that are okay they're not okay anywhere, but things that seem okay in other spaces are not in ours. It feels like a way that we can manipulate that conversation, and hopefully they'll take those changes and bring them into other spaces. We can infest everybody with our good vibes. So I want to make sure we have time for questions. So if people have questions, there's a microphone on that thing right there. and you can go and stand in front of it, and you can use your words to communicate ideas to us, which we can then respond to. It's the magic of language. Thanks, cavemen.
Hey, thanks everybody for streaming. I really appreciate it. My husband and I stream together, and part of the platform that we have created for our community is one where people can feel safe to interact with us and to give us questions. One thing that we want to do is reach out to other people so that they can feel like there's a safe place for them to be. What other tools other than social media have you guys used to connect with other family members?
You're doing it. Stuff like this, like conventions, it's huge, totally huge. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else?
I mean, I don't really interact with people besides social media, so I don't really know what to. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
I'm with you. Like there are people, and it's scary. Like right now.
I think that at the start of things, we were talking about how things aren't necessarily great, but they could be better. And my question is, like, if you had one suggestion for just like a general like populace, like, what are some of the things that we can work on to make it better? What would your suggestion be?
Okay, so I have like, if we're talking about streamers and people who want to like, how can I say this, sort of improve their communities in that way, or like think about that kind of thing, there are certain terms that I think should be just blanketly blacklisted, yeah. And I have very few things that bug me other than a couple of terms, you know. So yeah, I think, you know, it is about like changing the language and about like changing the way we talk about people and the way that we like refer to people. So I think that's a great way, like if you're talking about just like in each space, what do you think is a good idea?
I think for me it would be that I think people should understand that it's okay if they don't like people. Like, it's not okay to disrespect people. And I think that we kind of have this culture of like, everybody's friends, we're all friends. Like when you're in elementary school, you know, like everybody is friends, you know, and it's like, it's okay to not be friends with everyone, you know, and it's okay if you don't like my content. It's okay if you don't like me as a person, like watching my stream. There are thousands of streams, you know, like you can go watch anyone, but it's not okay for you to be disrespectful. And I think that's where we have to draw the line. Thank you.
Thanks for your time. It's been really a fantastic set of opinions and information. I've been keeping a slight eye on the chat over the course of the panel.
I'm so sorry.
Well,
Do we want to know?
So actually, and I did it so that I would be able to compare it to the chat from the Diversified Twitch panel yesterday, which was a situation. So props to the moderators out there for, I think that they've done a good job of trying to keep things civil and reasonable.
Good job, Mads.
Though I hope I didn't, you know, so my question then is a same question that I asked yesterday. From a technological perspective, understanding that Twitch is a piece of technology and that you as active streamers, if Twitch is out there listening and there were a tool, an idea, a modification, a something, aside from the suggestions that we've made to sort of the community to be able to steal itself, what ways could the tools or the system be more effective for streamers, particularly ones who could be victims of harassment?
God, it's tough, right? Because there's no technology that currently exists that I'm aware of that can look into a person's soul and judge whether they're good or bad. If we could invent that, no. I mean, I think the thing is that like shitty people will find ways to be shitty, and there are behavioral problems that exist at a societal level that Twitch is an example of. And we can put out fires, but we need to, as a society, as people, need to work on the higher level stuff. But obviously, that's not something we can like code for. I think everybody handles it a little bit differently in their own communities because, like as Anne was saying, like, you know, we're leaning more towards this idea of not responding with the ban hammer because that's the blunt force approach. If someone says a bad word, they're gone forever. and it does take human emotional labor to fix people, which is, I think, what we have to do. Unfortunately, I don't think Twitch can do that. I think what they can do is do a really good job of monitoring the kinds of conversations that are happening in channels and why and how those things are happening and how they're enabling or preventing those conversations from occurring. We're remiss if we think that Twitch doesn't see every word that everyone ever says and run it through software to analyze it for marketing purposes. We could use that data for good in addition to evil, and start looking at, if 95% of racist content on Twitch incorporates a certain emote, then fuck that emote, right? Don't do it. Yeah. We have the tools available to us already. We don't need to magic those up. We can look at these things that are happening and find ways to prevent them.
Thank you.
This is largely directed at Elf, but anyone else can answer as well. So the question is, I have a lot of friends who kind of resent being the person that everyone asks, why, what's this? How do you do this? Why? How? Would you prefer, that your stream be more focused on you as a person, on your interests, on your content? Or do you see it as an opportunity to educate people who don't know any better, even though they could Google it?
I 100% understand the oh God, here we go. Oh, here it goes again, the same questions, and if you're not in a space where that is a thing that you've sort of taken onto yourself, and I feel I have sort of taken onto myself this sort of responsibility, like you said, to I don't know, be a little bit educational when I can. That's not saying it doesn't get tiring. It does. But yeah, I there's nothing that I enjoy more than somebody having an opinion to start and then ending up in a different place after having listened to me and sort of going oh yeah, I understand now, and that's really good and nice, It's a nice feeling when somebody starts off with, what the hell, boy or girl, I don't know what's going on, I'm so confused, and I go, look, listen here, I'm trans, just be respectful, she, her pronouns, and we get to a point where we can interact as human beings rather than as trans person, object, and viewer, So I think I would like to do more in terms of focus on content, and content and my personality, but there's a lot of stuff that I do that's not related to me being trans. I just get to it when I can, I get to it when it comes up. I don't refute it.
Hi, so I work at a school where we teach kids first grade all the way up through high school how to program video games. And I can tell you that there's a whole lot of really young kids who spend, all kinds of time on Twitch, which is honestly a little bit terrifying, right? And so I get a lot of questions from parents about, hey, is this okay? Is this something that I should be, keeping an eye on? And, my response is for sure, keep an eye on it. So I wanted to say, I guess, first of all, thank you guys, because, every time that you handle a troll or answer a question, for every time that happens, I'm confident that there's a number of really young kids for whom this is the first time ever, approaching or thinking about those issues.
That's why we do it. We're like the Wu-Tang Clan. We do it for the children.
Right.
Yeah.
I honestly feel really terrified at the idea that there was some kid watching as I just shut someone down.
Right.
Oh God.
At PAX East, I was having dinner at a restaurant, and some kid who was 12 was like, I know you from YouTube. And I'm like, and his mom was standing right there, and I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, your kid is gay now.
So, I have recommended Anne's channel in particular a couple times as somebody who I've seen handle trolls in a very elegant way, and I think that that's super important, especially for some of our young women. But I just wanted to know if you guys had any advice for me as a white straight male in terms of when I'm either answering questions for parents or making recommendations to teachers. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Like recommendations for other streamers?
How to handle it, right? So,
Oh.
because, you can say, yeah, keep an eye on it, right? Don't let them watch anything that, you wouldn't be comfortable with them watching, but.
Yeah, I mean, make it and I wish I could be speaking from experience. I wish that this could have been my experience with my parents. It was not.
Mm-hmm.
But making the things that the kids are hype about into a family affair is the best way to make it safe, because if you're just watching something so you can decide whether or not to censor it for your kids, you're gonna come at it from a real negative place. But if you're like, oh, my kid's like really into this thing, I'm gonna like sit down for an hour or whatever with them and we're gonna watch the streamer. And then afterwards you can be like, okay, this is appropriate or not appropriate for them. And what's cool about streaming is like, I would love it if a parent reached out to me and was like, I was watching my stream with your kid, or with my kid. I don't have any kids.
Something we don't know,
if
Adam?
somebody wants to DM me if you got my kid, I have not seen them in a very long time. Can I have them back, please? But no, so if they were with their kid, or anyone's kid, and said to me, we were watching your stream, I had some questions about the way you're handling stuff, like social media makes it so that you can just like reach out and touch these people. We're not distant figures.
Please don't touch us.
It's a metaphor.
I don't know.
Like
I
my
might be
child.
okay with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing here is like, and again, this is coming from a place of some personal resentment maybe, but like, give a shit about the things your kids care about.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I was also going to say too, as streamers, when you asked that question, I was like, oh yeah, kids do watch, but we're also we're not meant to be role models. I mean, I know some people do that, but I drink on stream a lot, so I hope that there's not a 7-year-old kid like, I'm gonna drink tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point. Like, we're not great role models with all the
don't
drinking and
model
the
after
swearing
us.
and the Marxism.
I think it's like, Twitch is just like a TV show, like if your kid is like, I really want to watch South Park, and you don't know what South Park is, like maybe just take half an hour, an hour out of your day to like look at it, and if that's important to you, put time into it. Like if your kid matters to you at all, I hope that they do, put time into it. So it's like just, if your kid is like, I really like Lyric, and then, okay, just watch Lyric for like an hour, and like decide if that's something that you're okay with your kid, watching.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, you can get involved too, and you can, like, as a parent, find out, like, other streamers that might be more appropriate or whatever, and lead your kid towards that. I mean, Ko is a nice, safe choice. The dude is a Sesame Street of Twitch.
I know, and then earlier he's like, I think I'd be dark side. I was like, no, Ko, no, you wouldn't. You would not be dark side.
Cool.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, so we're getting the, like, wrapper up, so we'll do one more. I'm sorry
all right.
to anyone who was in line, but
I'm the lucky one here.
Do it.
So we had talked a lot about people who are just complete assholes, and you see them and you ban them and they come back. I'm like, what the fuck? I got banned, and you send them off again, and they're just done. And we talk about the people who apologize and you correct them and they want to be inclusive, so they stay around and they become a good person. I'd like to draw attention to the middle ground of someone who gets banned, like, oh, why was that bad? And you tell them, like, oh, I'm sorry. And they stay in. And 5 minutes later, they're doing something else. And so you time that again. And they're like, apologize. And they, okay, fine, whatever. And then an hour later, they do something else. How do you guys, what are your thoughts on that? How do you deal with it in your chats?
I think it was sort of like, I think UGR said it a little earlier. You can kind of tell when someone just wants to stir the shit, and like wants to sort of be that person who causes a problem. And these are the kind of people like I don't really think there is like this direct middle ground where they continue to make mistakes in the same manner. Like if you tell them how to fix their mistake and they don't do it,
they're just playing fuck up bingo.
yeah, I mean, they're basically going like, hey, how can I make this person's day more difficult, and like playing that game, and I think that's just as bad as just being disrespectful to begin with.
I have actually met someone who doesn't get misogyny. He doesn't understand why certain things are misogynistic.
This person is not unique in the world.
And so he'll make the same mistake. He will. He's honestly sorry every time he makes it, but he makes the same mistake.
Well, but you're saying he's honestly sorry, but like if he's doing the same thing, like if he says a comment and you're like, that's not okay, and then he, is like, oh, okay, sorry, and then he does it again, and then you're like, okay, that's the same thing that I just corrected you for. There's a certain point where it's like they're just unwilling to learn. And if you're unwilling to learn, I'm not a babysitter, I'm not a teacher, I'm not qualified for any of that. Like I don't have to, like I don't, like if you don't get it and you're not gonna get it, even though I'm trying to intelligently describe something to you, then like that's your fault, figure it out on your own.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody can be raised up from a place of ignorance, but it doesn't always have to be any one person's responsibility for it. If somebody is not legitimately, like I think part of an apology, part of saying you're sorry, is owning your shit and not doing it again. So the apology doesn't count if you just keep doing it. And it's not anybody's responsibility to keep working on those people if they just can't get their shit together. They need to go away and deal with that themselves. Sometimes that's just the reality of things. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right, so that's what we have time for. So thank you so much for coming. This has been great. That's it. We're done.
Yay. Thank you guys for coming.